Arrival. Do not touch the monster. Arthur Hale stepped off the transport shuttle and onto the landing pad of Elysium Station. The metal beneath his boots trembled faintly, carrying the low hum of hidden machinery. Gravity pressed on him, a little heavier than Earth's, just enough to remind him that he was on a foreign world, far away from home. The air tasted strange, metallic yet sharp, as though the atmosphere itself was suspicious of him. The station's AI whispered through the filter in his helmet. Breathable air detected. But do not remove your module. Local. Microbes will cause irritation. Arthur obeyed, keeping the mask secure. He looked up. Towers of living metal stretched high, pulsing with light as though the buildings themselves were breathing. Elysium was no ordinary outpost. It was the beating heart of Narathos, a world famous for its advanced bioengineering. Here, walls glowed with veins of bioluminescence and streets shifted like coral adjusting to ocean currents. Arthur had been briefed on this alien wonder, but seeing it in person was another thing entirely. A voice, melodic yet cold, spoke from behind him. "Commander Arthur Hale?" He turned. The figure who approached moved like water. She was Narathosian, skin a deep blue with thin glowing lines that shifted faintly as she walked. Her hair, silver white, fell in an intricate braid down her back. Her uniform resembled a cross between tactical gear and ceremonial dress, functional yet undeniably elegant. "I am Liaison Vera," she said with a short bow. "I will guide you during your inspection. The High Council asks that your visit remain efficient." Arthur studied her glowing white eyes. They held no warmth, only calculation. He answered in a steady voice. "Thank you, Liaison Vera. I will be efficient." Without waiting for further greeting, she gestured him toward a hovering platform. As the transport carried them into the city, Arthur noticed the stairs. Narathosians passing by paused, their gazes lingering on him with curiosity, disapproval, and something sharper, distrust. Humans were still newcomers to the Galactic Alliance. 70 years was nothing compared to species who had mapped the stars for millennia. To them, humans were upstarts. Yet Arthur sat here now, equal in rank to their council representatives. "You must find our world impressive," Vera said, her tone measured, almost rehearsed. "It is," Arthur admitted. "Your people have mastered biotechnology in ways we've only begun to imagine." Her eyes flickered faintly. "We have had 50,000 years to refine our ways, Commander. Your species, in contrast, was still discovering fire while we were taming oceans." Arthur gave a small grin. "And yet here I am, speaking with you as an equal envoy." Her gaze sharpened at that word. Equal. She said nothing more. The platform descended, gliding toward a dark complex at the edge of a shimmering lake. Unlike the city's elegant spires, this facility was encircled by barricades and armed guards. Its very design whispered secrecy. Arthur's instincts sharpened. Something was wrong here. "This is not on the original itinerary," he said. "There has been an incident," Vera replied. "Containment issues. The High Council requests an Alliance witness." The guards at the gates were tense, their four-fingered hands clutching advanced rifles. They scanned Arthur with open hostility as Vera led him through multiple checkpoints. Each gate was stricter than the last, as though they were walking deeper into the heart of a secret the world wished to bury. Finally, they entered a massive chamber with a ceiling that stretched 50 feet above. In the center stood a cage, no, a prison, glowing with reinforced fields. Inside, something stirred. Arthur froze. The creature was enormous, coiled like a serpent, yet broad like an elephant. Its scales shimmered blue and teal, reflecting the chamber's lights in waves. Had multiple limbs, part fin and part claw, twitching against restraints. But it was the eyes, huge, yellow-green, unblinking, that fixed on him. "What is that?" Arthur whispered. "A leviathan," Vera answered, voice low. "An apex predator from our oceans. It was captured for research. But it killed 2 handlers, yesterday." The High Council has ordered termination by dawn. A Narathosian in ceremonial robes approached. His skin was a deeper blue, his expression stern. Commander Hale, you arrive at an important moment. This creature has proven unmanageable. Its death is necessary, and you will witness it so no questions remain. Arthur did not answer right away. He studied the Guardian, because that is what it looked like to him, not a beast but a sentinel. Its massive body trembled, not in aggression, but in agitation. The movements were desperate, not predatory. Has it eaten? Arthur asked. The robed director frowned. It has refused all sustenance. Arthur kept his eyes on the creature. Its pupils dilated slightly at his voice. He felt a strange pull, an intuition that went against every warning, every briefing. This was not the gaze of a monster. This was the gaze of something intelligent, something afraid. The director's tone hardened. Do not be deceived. This is no ally. It will die at dawn, and with it, all risk. Arthur's hand brushed the ration bar in his pocket. He did not show it, but the thought was already growing in his mind. If everyone else sees a monster, what will happen if I treat it as something more? The Guardian's eyes followed him as the officials argued in the background. Its great body shifted slightly, scales catching the dim light as if waiting. The station's AI repeated its first warning in his earpiece. Do not touch the specimen. Arthur exhaled slowly. His instincts, sharpened through years of war and peace alike, whispered something else. Maybe the monster just needs someone to reach through the cage. The gentle protocol. The chamber was silent except for the low hum of the containment field. The Narathosian officials had left to prepare the execution order, leaving only Commander Arthur Hale and Liaison Vera standing before the massive cage. The creature inside, what they called a leviathan, shifted restlessly. Chains hissed as they strained against its weight. Its scales glowed faintly, alive with strange energy, as if the beast was made of starlight trapped in flesh. Arthur's eyes narrowed. Something about the way it watched him was wrong. Too calm, too aware. Predators looked at prey with hunger. This was different. The beast looked at him the way a soldier looked across a battlefield, measuring, waiting. Vera folded her arms. Do not stare at it too long. It studies you back. Arthur almost smiled. Good, let it. She tilted her head, silver braid swaying. You think yourself fearless, but bravery does not impress a creature bred for killing. Maybe it wasn't bred for killing, Arthur said quietly. Maybe it was bred for surviving. He took a slow step toward the cage. The guards at the far end tensed, but Vera raised her hand to stop them. She was curious. Though her glowing skin lines pulsed in a rhythm Arthur suspected meant unease. The Leviathan lifted its head. A low rumble filled the chamber, deep enough to vibrate in Arthur's chest. The sound wasn't hostile. It was questioning. Arthur unclipped his glove. The filtered air stung his bare hand as he reached into a pouch on his belt. From it he pulled out a small, foil-wrapped ration bar. Nothing special. Compressed protein and chocolate, a luxury aboard human fleets. He peeled the wrapper back slowly. The scent carried into the air, sweet and unfamiliar in this sterile place. The beast's nostrils flared. Its pupils widened. The rumble shifted tone. Arthur crouched, lowering himself so he wasn't towering over the cage. His voice was steady, soft. Hungry, aren't you, Commander? Vera's voice snapped like a whip. Stop this madness. Arthur ignored her. He extended the ration bar through the energy bars of the cage. For a moment, nothing happened. The Leviathan's body rippled with tension. Vera took an involuntary step backward. Then, with surprising grace, one of its appendages moved forward. Not claw, not fin, but something in between, designed to feed, not to kill. It curled around the bar with delicate precision and drew it into its massive jaws. The beast chewed once, twice, then it swallowed, and a deep, resonant sound filled the chamber. Not a roar, not a growl, something else. A hum of pleasure. Arthur exhaled, relief breaking through the tension. See? Not a monster. The Leviathan lowered its head, pressing against the bars nearest Arthur. The scales shimmered where his hand hovered. He hesitated only a second before placing his palm against the warm, pulsing surface. The hum deepened, vibrating through the floor, through the air, through Arthur's bones. For the first time, the beast looked peaceful. Vera's eyes widened. Impossible. Her voice trembled, though not with fear, with awe. They are apex predators. They cannot bond. Arthur smiled faintly, still stroking the warm scales. Maybe they don't bond with fear. Maybe they bond with respect. For a moment, it felt like the chamber belonged to them alone, man and creature, two species reaching across fear and suspicion to find something simple: trust. Then the lights flickered. Alarms whispered through the hall, not the sharp blare of an accident, but the soft, controlled chime of an intrusion. Shadows moved above the chamber's observation deck. Arthur's soldier's instinct tensed. Someone was watching. The Leviathan stiffened, eyes narrowing toward the glass ceiling. Its glow brightened, scales shifting from calm teal to sharp, warning blue. Vera tapped her wrist console, her skin patterns flashing frantic. Unauthorized movement. Someone has accessed the control hub. Arthur didn't let go of the beast. His other hand moved toward his sidearm. Who? The intercom crackled. A voice low and familiar spilled into the chamber. Arthur Hale, always the fool with the gentle hand. Arthur froze. The voice carried echoes of Earth, a human voice. Who is that? Vera demanded, Arthur's jaw clenched. An old ghost. The voice laughed softly. Enjoy petting your monster, Hale. By dawn, its death will open the way to something far greater. The line cut. The chamber fell back into silence, except for the Leviathan's steady hum against Arthur's hand. Vera's eyes glowed brighter, her fear sharpened by suspicion. You knew that voice. Arthur did not answer. His mind raced. If his old comrade was here, then this was not just an accident, not just an execution. Something deeper was at play, something dangerous. The beast pressed its head closer to him, almost urging him to stay. For the first time, Arthur wondered if this so-called predator wasn't warning him, wasn't protecting him. He looked up at the observation glass, then back at the creature. If they want you dead, there's a reason, and I intend to find out what it is. The beast hummed once more, lower, like an oath in the language of oceans. Arthur's hand stayed on its scales. He whispered, almost to himself, "We'll survive. This together." Blood in the water, the chamber should have been silent. But Arthur heard the sound that every soldier knows, the faint scrape of boots trying to stay quiet. Above, behind the tinted glass of the observation deck, shadows moved. They weren't guards. They were hunters. The Leviathan sensed it too. Its scales flared with sharp pulses of light, rippling from blue into a dangerous white. Chains rattled as it shifted, not in rage, but in warning. A low rumble filled the hall, vibrating the floor beneath Arthur's boots. Vera spun her wrist console, her skin lines flashing in alarm. "Security system override," she hissed. "Someone is disabling safeties, externally." Arthur drew his sidearm, keeping one hand, pressed lightly on the Leviathan scales, the creature's eyes fixed on him, steady, almost expectant. The first shot came from above. A bolt of plasma streaked downward, shattering against the reinforced bars inches from Arthur's head. Sparks rained across the floor. The Leviathan whirred, not in pain, not in hunger, but in defiance. The chamber shook with the force of it. Arthur dropped into a crouch, scanning the upper gallery. A figure leaned from the shadows, weapon drawn. The same voice from before boomed through the chamber speakers. "Step away from it, Hale. That thing is not your friend." Arthur's stomach tightened. He knew that voice. Commander Rourke Vance, ex-Special Operations, ex-ally, now a mercenary ghost. A man who had once saved his life and later betrayed everything they fought for. Arthur fired back, his shot grazing the railing near Vance. The mercenary ducked out of sight, laughing. Still a terrible aim when you're protecting something. The Leviathan thrashed in its cage. Not at Arthur, not even at Vera. Its gaze stayed locked on the gallery above. It understood danger. It understood betrayal. Guards burst through the far doors, weapons raised, eyes wide with confusion. They had heard the alarms too late. "Commander, step away," one shouted. "The creature has gone violent." "No," Arthur barked, his voice sharp as steel. "It's not attacking us, it's defending." The guards didn't listen. They aimed their rifles at the Leviathan. And that was the mistake. The beast reared back, scales glowing blinding white. It slammed its chains against the bars. The containment field rippled but held, for now. The sound it released was deafening. A shockwave of energy that rattled weapons out of the guards' hands and cracked glass above. Arthur felt the vibration race through his bones. And in that pulse, he realized something. The Leviathan wasn't trying to break free. It was trying to shield him. "Blood in the water," Arthur muttered under his breath. "They staged this." Vera's eyes snapped to him, her glowing patterns flickering in panic. "What do you mean?" "Someone's framing the beast," Arthur said grimly. "Make it look rabid. Then they can justify killing it before anyone asks why it was captured alive in the first place." As if to confirm his words, the overhead intercom screeched with Director Thalos's voice. "Containment breach imminent. All personnel, lethal force authorized." Arthur's instincts screamed. He raised his voice, commanding the guards. "Hold your fire. This isn't what it looks like. Too late." One of the guards panicked, firing straight into the cage. The bolt hit a restraint, ricocheting into the wall. Sparks cascaded. The Leviathan shrieked, more in shock than pain, and pressed closer to Arthur's side of the cage. Arthur didn't hesitate. He stepped between the guards' rifles and the beast, arms wide. "Stand down!" The guards froze, torn between fear of the commander and fear of the monster. Above, Vance's laughter echoed again. "Look at you, Hale, petting the devil while everyone else bleeds. You still haven't learned. Mercy makes you weak." Arthur's jaw tightened. "And cruelty makes you blind." He turned back to the beast, lowering his weapon, lowering his voice. "Easy. You're safe." The Leviathan responded. Not with violence, but with a strange harmonic hum. It pressed its massive head against the bars where his hand reached. The glow around its scales softened, calming. The chamber fell into a tense silence. Guards stared, frozen, watching the impossible. A human calming the beast that had terrified an entire world. Vera whispered, almost to herself, "It listens to you?" Arthur stroked the scales, his voice barely above a breath. "Not to me, to trust." The moment shattered as more figures stormed into the chamber. Narathosian soldiers in black armor, their insignias concealed. They weren't council guards, they were something darker. Their leader raised a weapon, voice cold. "Kill the human. Kill the beast. No witnesses." Arthur's eyes narrowed. Finally, the truth surfaced. This wasn't about control. It wasn't about science. It was about erasing evidence. The soldiers opened fire. The Leviathan roared, chains tearing against their locks. The containment field flickered red under the strain. Arthur dove for cover, dragging Vera with him. Energy bolts tore holes through the chamber floor. The beast lunged, not at Arthur but at the black-armored soldiers. Its fury shook the entire complex. Blood had hit the water, and predators, human and alien alike, had come circling. Arthur gritted his teeth, raising his chippin. "All right then," he muttered. "If it's war they want, it's war they'll get." The eggs. The blast doors groaned shut behind them, sealing away the chaos of the chamber. Arthur Hale's pulse still hammered in his ears, but his instincts drove him forward. Vera ran beside him, her luminous skin patterns flickering like a storm warning. "They'll hunt us," she whispered. "The council's soldiers, the mercenary above. None of them will let you walk out alive." Arthur's jaw tightened. "Then we stop walking, we start digging." The service tunnels sloped downward, deeper into the belly of the facility. Here the walls no longer looked like steel. They pulsed faintly, alive with veins of bioluminescence. Arthur brushed his hand against one and felt a vibration. Not machinery, a heartbeat. This whole complex is grown, not built, he muttered. Vera nodded. Bioarchitecture. My people pride themselves on it. She hesitated, her voice lowering. But this place... This feels wrong. Like a secret no one should keep. The tunnels ended at a pressure-sealed hatch. Alien script glowed across its surface, warning of restricted access. Vera entered a series of codes, her fingers trembling. The hatch opened with a wet hiss, revealing a chamber vast enough to swallow the shuttle they'd arrived in. Arthur froze. The room was filled with pools of iridescent liquid, each one glowing, faintly from within. And inside those pools, resting, pulsing, alive, were eggs, dozens of them, some the size of helmets, others as large as Arthur himself. Each one radiated a soft light, like stars trapped in glass. Vera gasped, her skin flickering with disbelief. By the seas, a clutch. Arthur stepped closer, his voice a whisper. They weren't just keeping one creature. They were breeding them. The eggs shifted as if sensing him. Their glow brightened, harmonizing with each other in a strange rhythm, like a choir of unborn voices. The sound wasn't in his ears, but in his bones. Arthur had fought in too many wars to mistake that feeling. This isn't rage. It's calling. A low chuckle echoed through the chamber speakers. Arthur's shoulders stiffened. He knew that voice too well. Vance. So you found the nursery? The mercenary drawled. I knew you'd sniff it out, Hale. You always did have a nose for things you shouldn't touch. Arthur scanned the shadows above the chamber. The intercom distorted the location of the voice. You knew this was here all along. Of course, Vance replied, almost amused. The council hides their research. Pirates sniff around for profit. The Alliance pretends to turn a blind eye. And me? I pick up the pieces and sell to the highest bidder. Arthur's grip tightened on his weapon. These aren't weapons. Everything is a weapon. Vance shot back. Energy regulators? Ecosystem balancers? Spare me the poetry. Harness their power and you have living batteries strong enough to turn fleets to ash. Vera's voice shook with anger. You would slaughter an unborn generation for profit? Vance laughed again. Spare me the morality liaison. Your own council signed the order. I'm just here to make sure it gets delivered. The lights dimmed. Mechanical arms unfolded from the ceiling, descending toward the pools. Harvesters, designed to pierce the shells and drain whatever essence glowed within. Arthur's blood ran cold. They're not even waiting for them to hatch. He fired at the nearest arm, sparks raining as it collapsed. The eggs beneath rippled, glowing brighter, humming louder. The Leviathan's voice, deep, resonant, boomed through the floor. The beast above was still chained, but its call carried through the complex, echoing into the nursery. The eggs answered in pulsing light. Arthur's chest tightened. They weren't just calling. They were synchronizing. Vera grabbed his arm, her glowing eyes wide. Do you understand? These are not beasts. They are linked. Family. Kill the clutch. And the guardian above goes mad. Arthur's voice was hard. Or maybe that's what they want. A violent death. Proof of a monster. The ceiling groaned as another set of arms lowered. Vance's voice sharpened. Stand aside, Hale. You can't save them all. Arthur's hand moved to his pouch. He still had one ration bar left. He tore the wrapper, the sweet scent spreading. He placed it gently on the ground near the nearest pool. The egg closest to him pulsed. The glow flickered once, then steadied in rhythm with the scent. The chamber's hum shifted, softer, curious. Arthur crouched low. Easy now, he whispered. You're not alone. None of you are. Vera stared in awe. They hear you. Arthur glanced up at the cameras. You see this, Vance? They don't want war. They want to live. And if you kill them, the galaxy will know exactly who turned protectors into prey. Vance's chuckle faltered. Then the intercom hissed, replaced by the sound of boots on steel. A squad of black-armored soldiers poured into the nursery, rifles raised. Their leader barked, "Secure the human, secure the clutch, leave no witnesses." Arthur rose, weapon ready. The eggs pulsed behind him, glowing brighter, their hum building like the rising tide. He smirked grimly. "Guess we'll find out what happens when you spill blood in the nursery." The soldiers opened fire. The eggs answered. Light exploded from the pools, a harmonic shockwave that threw the first line of soldiers against the walls. Their weapons fried in their hands, circuits dead. The unborn weren't helpless. They were defending. Arthur and Vera ducked behind a support pillar. The air alive with heat and static. Arthur reloaded, adrenaline burning. Looks like they've chosen a side. Vera's skin lights burned bright. Then so must we. The trader's mission smoke still hung in the nursery air. The bodies of black-armored soldiers lay scattered where the egg's shockwave had thrown them. The pools pulsed in unison, their glow calmer now, as if the unborn sensed their defenders had won. For now, Arthur Hale holstered his sidearm but kept one hand near the grip. His soldier's instincts screamed that the fight wasn't over. Vera's luminous patterns glowed erratically, betraying both awe and dread. The clutch defended itself, not with violence but with disruption. They burned weapons, not flesh. Arthur nodded grimly. Defensive instinct. They're guardians, not predators, and that makes them even more dangerous to people who want them caged. A voice drifted from the far end of the chamber. "You finally understand." Arthur spun, weapon raised. From the shadows stepped Commander Rourke Vance. His armor was sleeker than the Council's soldiers, Alliance design but scarred, repainted black. A mercenary's uniform. He carried no helmet, his face still sharp, his eyes still hard. Arthur's gut tightened. Memories flickered. Firefights back on Carrion Prime. Nights when Vance had saved him with nothing but grit and instinct. And the day Vance had walked away, branded deserter, whispers of betrayal trailing behind him. "Thomas Vance," Arthur said, his voice steady. "I should have known you'd be at the heart of this mess." Vance smirked, lowering his weapon but not his guard. "Still self-righteous, Hale. Still pretending you're not just another pawn." Arthur kept his aim locked. "Tell me why. You're here. Why betray the Alliance for this?" He gestured toward the glowing pools. "Betray?" Vance's laugh was harsh, hollow. "You still don't see it. I didn't betray the Alliance. I am the Alliance, or at least the part that actually makes decisions." Arthur frowned. "What are you talking about?" Vera stepped closer, suspicion flaring in her glow. "Explain." Vance's smile widened. "The Guardians are no myth. They're weapons, living reactors that channel energy on a scale beyond anything our fleets can touch. Do you think the Alliance didn't know? Of course they knew. They sent me to secure them. Deep cover, off the record." Arthur shook his head. "No. My mission was inspection, intel gathering. That's it." Vance's eyes hardened. "That's the story they gave you. You were the witness, the distraction, the one they could throw away if things soured. Meanwhile, I handled the real mission, deliver the Guardians no matter the cost." Arthur's grip on his rifle tightened. "And when the Council decided to kill the beast, you let them? You stood back and watched?" "Of course," Vance snapped. "Better. A staged execution than the truth leaking out. Better one corpse than the galaxy realizing we found the perfect weapon." The eggs pulsed brighter as though reacting to his words. The hum in the chamber deepened, unsettling even the air itself. Vera stepped between them, her voice sharp. "You mean to enslave an entire species? To twist Guardians into bombs?" Vance sneered. "Spare me your morality. Your Council signed off before the first egg was stolen from the sea. They want the same thing the Alliance does. Control." Arthur's voice cut in, low and sharp. "And what about you, Rourke? What do you want?" For a moment, Vance's expression cracked. Weariness flickered in his eyes. Then he masked it with a bitter smile. "I want humanity to survive. The galaxy doesn't respect us, Hale. To them, we're infants playing with matches, but if we control the Guardians, if we hold the leash to a power even the ancients can't tame, then they'll respect us. Then they'll fear us. Arthur lowered his rifle slightly, but his tone was ice. Fear isn't respect, and control isn't survival. It's suicide. You think you can leash something like this? You can't even leash yourself. The Leviathan's roar rolled through the chamber above, shaking dust from the ceiling. The eggs flared, answering the call. Vera's glow surged, panic flashing across her features. They know, she whispered. The Guardian feels the soldiers. It feels the threat to its young. If you keep pushing, the chamber lights flickered red. The intercom blared. Containment failure imminent. Reactor destabilization in lower sector. Vance raised his rifle again, pointing it at Arthur. Step aside, let me finish the mission. This is bigger than you, Hale, bigger than any of us. Arthur aimed back, eyes locked on the man who had once been his brother in arms. This isn't a mission, Rourke. It's murder. And if I have to choose between you and them... The eggs pulsed again, harmonizing with the Leviathan's roar. The chamber shook, pools rippling. Arthur's words were nearly swallowed in the noise, but Vance heard them. Then, I choose the Guardians. For a heartbeat, the two men stood in silence, weapons leveled, old loyalty and fresh betrayal hanging between them like a knife. Then the floor shook violently, alarms screaming louder. The chamber ceiling cracked, shards falling into the pools. The egg's hum sharpened into something new. Not just defense, but anger. Vera's voice rose above the chaos. If we don't leave now, we all die. Arthur's eyes never left Vance's. Then pick your side. Vance's lips curled into a grim smile. I already have. He pulled the trigger. The Guardian's wrath. The gunshot cracked like thunder in the nursery chamber. Arthur Hale threw himself sideways, the plasma bolt grazing his shoulder plating, burning through the outer shell of his combat suit. Pain seared his skin. He hit the floor hard, rolling behind a support pillar. Vera cried out, her glowing patterns flashing in alarm. The eggs pulsed furiously in their pools, light blazing bright enough to paint the walls in violent hues. The chamber vibrated with their collective hum, no longer defensive, no longer curious. It was anger. Above, the Leviathan roared. The sound wasn't confined to the chamber. It shook the entire facility, reverberating through steel and grown bioarchitecture alike. Chains groaned under its massive body. Arthur gritted his teeth, pressing against the wall as Vance's boots echoed closer. Still quick on your feet, Vance called, voice calm, mocking. But you can't win this, Hale. Not against me. Not against the Alliance's will. Arthur spat blood, forcing himself upright. The Alliance didn't send you. They buried you. You've been off book so long you don't even know what you're fighting for anymore. Vance's smirk cut through the smoke. I know exactly what I'm fighting for. Power. Humanity's future. The Leviathan's roar deepened. With a deafening crack, one of its restraints shattered. Shards of reinforced alloy clattered down into the nursery. Vera grabbed Arthur's arm. The beast! Its bond with the clutch. It's breaking free. Arthur's soldier instincts screamed. He had seen battlefields where a single weapon gone rogue had destroyed entire platoons. But this was different. This wasn't a weapon. This was a parent. Vance aimed his rifle at the pools, eyes cold. Then we end this before it starts. Arthur lunged. His shoulder slammed into Vance just as the mercenary fired. The bolt missed the nearest egg by inches, searing into the wall. The shockwave of their collision sent both men sprawling across the slick floor. They wrestled. Old comrades turned mortal enemies, fists striking, armor clashing. Vance's strength was brutal, efficient. He'd always been the better brawler. But Arthur had something else. Desperation. Because this time, he wasn't fighting for orders. He was fighting for trust. The Leviathan's chains snapped, one after another. The roar that followed wasn't rage. It was grief, fury, protection, all fused into one sound that made Arthur's bones ache. The ceiling above the nursery exploded. Shards of biometal and organic support beams rained down as the Leviathan forced its way through, tearing the facility apart. Arthur staggered to his feet, dragging Vera with him. Dust and sparks filled the chamber, but through the chaos, he saw it, the Guardian, massive and radiant, scales glowing with white-blue brilliance. Its eyes fixed not on the humans, not on Vera, but on the eggs. Its children. The Leviathan lowered its head into the nursery, pressing its massive jaw against the pools. The eggs pulsed in response, calmer now, harmonizing with the Guardian's glow. Arthur felt it in his chest, in the marrow of his bones. This wasn't just noise. This was language. A call and an answer, the bond of blood and survival. Vance raised his weapon again, shouting over the roar. "Do you see now, Hale? Look at that power. A fleet of these things under human command, we'd rule the stars." Arthur raised his own weapon, voice raw. "You don't command Guardians. You earn them. That's the difference you'll never understand." For a split second, the chamber froze in the glow of the Leviathan's light. Arthur aiming at Vance, Vance aiming at the beast. Then the Guardian unleashed its wrath. From its throat came not a roar, but a beam of concentrated energy. Pure, radiant, ocean blue light lanced across the chamber, striking the far wall. The blast tore through steel and stone alike, vaporizing everything in its path. The black-armored soldiers who had survived the earlier wave were erased in a heartbeat. The shockwave knocked Arthur and Vera off their feet, slamming them against the ground. Heat washed over them, the air thick with ozone and burning metal. When the glare faded, only the Guardian remained, towering, radiant, protective. Its massive body curled protectively around the clutch. Arthur struggled upright, coughing. His rifle lay meters away, useless now. He didn't need it. Vance stood too, battered but unbroken, his eyes wide with something between awe and madness. "Do you see? Do you see? That power isn't a Guardian, it's a god." The Leviathan turned its gaze toward him, scales flaring white. Arthur stepped between them, shouting, "No! Look at me!" The Leviathan's eyes shifted. Its gaze softened as Arthur placed a hand on his chest, the same way he had in the containment chamber. "You don't need to fight him. You don't need to kill. You've already proved what you are," Vera whispered, barely audible over the humming glow. "It listens to you. Just you." Vance's laughter turned ragged, desperate. He raised his weapon again, hands trembling. "If I can't control it, then no one will." He fired. The bolt streaked toward the eggs. Arthur dove. The gentle hand. The plasma bolt streaked across the nursery, hissing through the air. Arthur Hale hit the ground hard, his body colliding with the edge of a pool. The shot missed the nearest egg by inches, vaporizing the floor into molten slag. Heat seared his side, but the eggs remained untouched. The Leviathan roared, the sound so powerful the walls buckled. Its massive body coiled tighter around the clutch, scales blazing with white-blue fury. Energy crackled across its form, the air itself humming with restrained violence. Vance stood across the chamber, rifle raised, face twisted with obsession. "Do you see, Hale? Even its wrath proves me right. You can't reason with gods. You either chain them or burn with them." Arthur pushed himself upright, blood smearing across his cheek. "You're wrong, Rourke. You always were." He turned toward the Leviathan, ignoring Vance's weapon. Slowly, carefully, he raised his empty hands. "Easy," he whispered, his voice steady despite the chaos. "You're not alone. Not anymore." The Leviathan's gaze locked onto him. Its glow dimmed, just slightly. The energy that had been seconds away from annihilation softened into something else. Recognition. The eggs pulsed, harmonizing with Arthur's voice, their light rising and falling like a heartbeat in time with his words. Vera's breath caught. Her luminous patterns blazed bright like sunlight across water. "It listens," she whispered. "It trusts." Vance's fury boiled over. He stepped forward, weapon shaking in his hands. "No, it doesn't trust you. It doesn't even understand you. You're just noise to it, Hale. Noise with a lucky trick." Arthur didn't look away from the Leviathan. If that were true, it would have killed me in the cage. It would have crushed me in its fury, but it didn't. Because kindness isn't noise. It's language. The Leviathan rumbled, a deep, resonant sound that filled the chamber like an oath. Vance screamed, leveling his rifle again. Enough. But before he could fire, the Leviathan struck. A wave of harmonic energy burst from its chest, not aimed at Arthur, not even at the eggs, but directly at Vance. The blast hurled him across the chamber, slamming him into the far wall. His rifle clattered away, glowing red-hot before it shattered. Vance crumpled, coughing, armor cracked. His eyes still burned with defiance. You think you've won? The Alliance will come. The Council will come. They'll never let this sanctuary stand. Arthur stepped toward him, weaponless, exhausted but unbroken. Then let them come. They'll see what I saw today. That monsters aren't born. They're made. And that the bravest thing anyone can do is to be gentle. Vera moved beside him, her hand brushing his. Her glow steadied, a rhythm of calm. The Guardians have chosen, she said softly. They answered not fear, but trust. The Leviathan lowered its massive head, pressing its scales against the floor where Arthur stood. Its eyes, vast and radiant, reflected him like a mirror. Arthur placed his hand against the warm surface, the same gesture he'd made when this began. You're free now. Protect them. Protect your world. We'll fight beside you. The Leviathan's hum deepened, echoing through the chamber, through the clutch, through the very walls of the facility. And in that moment, Arthur knew it wasn't just sound, it was a vow. Behind them, the structure groaned. The earlier battles had fractured the reactor beneath the nursery. Red warning lights flared across the ceiling. Reactor critical, the station AI droned. Detonation in 3 minutes. Vera's eyes widened. We have to leave, now. Arthur turned to the Leviathan. Can you carry them? The beast lifted its head, then lowered its body, curling around the pools. With impossible delicacy, it drew the eggs closer, securing them against its massive chest. Its scales brightened, forming a protective cocoon of light. Arthur grabbed Vera's hand, pulling her toward the exit. We ride. She blinked. Ride? The Leviathan's massive form surged forward, smashing through the crumbling wall, exposing the underground tunnels that led toward the iridescent lake outside. Water rushed in, flooding the nursery. Arthur pulled Vera onto the creature's back. She clung to him, her glow dancing wildly in the storm of light and chaos. The Leviathan dove, its body moving through water like a god returned to its throne. Behind them, the facility imploded, reactor fire chasing them like a dying sun. They burst free into the open lake as the explosion consumed the complex, sending shockwaves across the alien world. The sky split with light, twin moons reflecting off the Leviathan's radiant scales. On its back, Arthur and Vera held tight as the clutch glowed in safety. The Guardian's hum rolled through the waters, echoing across Narathos. A message. A warning. A promise. Hours later, aboard Arthur's battered shuttle, they watched from orbit as the Leviathan and its brood disappeared into the endless oceans below. Vera stood at the viewport, her patterns glowing softly. They will remember this day, my people, yours, the galaxy. Arthur leaned beside her, his arm brushing hers. Not because we killed a monster, but because we refused to. She turned, her luminous eyes catching his. Among my people, there is a word for one who saves by mercy. Tore the gentle hand. Arthur's lips curved into a tired smile. Doesn't sound very heroic. On the contrary, she said, her voice steady. It sounds like the beginning of a legend. The shuttle drifted into the starfield carrying 2 fugitives and the truth that kindness, not fear, had changed the fate of a species.